The rain fell like tears from a grieving sky, turning the cemetery into a sea of black umbrellas and darker hearts. Alpha Roland Blackwater stood at the edge of the grave, his jaw locked tight enough to shatter teeth. The casket being lowered into the ground was mahogany, expensive, lined with white silk, empty, because there was no body to bury. His mate, his fated mate, the one the moon goddess herself had chosen for him, was gone. Pania Ashford had disappeared 3 months ago on what should have been a routine diplomatic mission to the Eastern Territories. No trace, no scent trail, no witnesses. Just vanished, as if the earth had opened up and swallowed her whole. The official report said presumed dead. The pack elders said, accept it and move on. His wolf said she's alive, howling the words on an endless loop until Roland thought he'd go insane from the cognitive dissonance. I'm sorry for your loss, Alpha. The voice came from his left. Sonia Clearwater, the pack's head healer, touched his arm with practiced sympathy. Her eyes were dry. Everyone's eyes were dry except his mother's, and even those tears felt performative, timed perfectly for maximum dramatic effect. Roland said nothing. He'd stopped talking 3 days ago when they'd insisted on holding this farce of a funeral. Speaking required energy he didn't have. Existing required energy he didn't have. But he stood there anyway, ramrod straight in his black suit, playing the role of the grieving Alpha, because that's what was expected. What no one knew, what he'd told absolutely no one, was that the mate bond hadn't severed. It should have. Death broke the bond instantly, violently, like a rope snapping under too much tension. It left a void in your chest that nothing could fill, a phantom pain that drove most wolves mad within a year. Roland felt no void. Instead, he felt distance. The bond was stretched thin, muffled, like trying to hear someone speaking through layers of concrete, but it was still there, which meant one of two things. Either Pania was alive, or he was losing his mind. He was starting to suspect it might be both. The pack needs you to be strong, Marshall Crescent, his beta and childhood friend, murmured on his right. Marshall's hand gripped his shoulder anchor, warning, plea. They're watching. Roland's gaze swept over the assembled wolves. 200 pack members, all dressed in funeral black, all pretending to mourn a woman half of them had barely tolerated. Pania had been an outsider, absorbed into the Lunar Crest pack when she was 16 after her own pack was massacred by rogues. She'd never quite fit, too quiet, too strange, too other. But she'd been his. The moment he turned 18 and his wolf had scented her across the training grounds, everything else had ceased to matter. The bond had clicked into place like a key in a lock, and Roland had known with absolute certainty that this odd, silent girl with silver blonde hair and eyes like storm clouds was his forever. 7 years. They'd had 7 years. And now everyone wanted him to believe those years had been cut short by some unnamed tragedy in the wilderness. Alpha Roland, a new voice, silken and sympathetic. Rachel Thornwood stepped forward, impeccable in a black designer dress that hugged every curve. She was beautiful in the way poisonous flowers were beautiful, bright, alluring, dangerous. Her father was the pack's head councilman, and Rachel herself had made it abundantly clear since they were teenagers that she'd been born to be a Luna, just not his Luna. If you need anything, Rachel continued, her hand landing on his other arm, anything at all, I'm here. The pack needs stability right now. Continuity, perhaps, in time. Roland's wolf snarled so viciously that he actually felt his canines lengthen. Marshall must have sensed it because his grip on Roland's shoulder tightened painfully, grounding him. Not now, Rachel, Marshall said quietly, dangerously. Read the room. Rachel's perfectly painted lips pressed into a thin line, but she stepped back, her eyes flashing with something that looked suspiciously like calculation. The ceremony concluded. Dirt hit the empty casket with hollow, mocking thuds. People began to disperse, heading to the pack house for the reception, because apparently you couldn't bury someone without feeding people afterward. Roland remained frozen at the graveside, staring at the hole in the ground that represented the gaping wound in his life. She's not dead, he whispered to no one in particular. Roland. Marshall's voice was gentle, pitying. I can still feel her. Roland turned to face his beta, his best friend, the one person who might actually believe him. The bond. Marshall. It's still there. Faint but there. Marshall's expression did something complicated: sympathy, concern, and something else. Something that looked almost like guilt. Grief can make us feel things that aren't real, Marshall said carefully. The mind protects itself by... Don't. Roland's voice dropped to a growl. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. I know what I feel. I know what's real. Then where is she? Marshall's frustration broke through his careful composure. If she's alive, where the hell has she been for 3 months? Why hasn't she come home? Why hasn't she reached out through the bond? Roland had no answers. Only questions that multiplied like bacteria in a petri dish, consuming him from the inside out. He walked away from the grave without another word, heading not to the reception but to his car. He needed to be alone. No, he needed to be moving. Sitting still meant thinking, and thinking meant spiraling into the abyss of not knowing that had become his constant companion. He drove for hours, aimless, until he found himself on the eastern border of Pack territory, the place where Pania's scent trail had ended. He'd been here dozens of times since she disappeared, searching for clues everyone else insisted didn't exist. Roland parked and shifted, his wolf taking over with a snarl of relief. 4 legs, fangs, instinct, it was easier this way. The wolf didn't question or analyze. The wolf just hunted. He ran the perimeter for the 100th time, nose to the ground, searching for any trace of her scent. Nothing. Just pine and earth and the rapidly fading territorial markers that needed refreshing. Then, as the sun began to set and exhaustion finally caught up with him, Roland's wolf caught something. A scent. Not Pania's, this was different, foreign, laced with power that made his hackles rise. Another alpha. On his territory. He followed the trail, his wolf's mind sharpening with purpose. The scent led him to the river that marked the border between Lunarcrest land and the unclaimed wilderness beyond. And there, standing on the opposite bank as if she'd been waiting for him, was a woman. She stood with the confidence of someone who'd never known fear, her posture regal despite the casual black combat gear she wore. Her hair was the color of midnight, falling in thick waves past her shoulders. Her eyes, even from this distance, Roland could see they were an unnatural amber gold, glowing faintly in the dusk. An alpha. Not just any alpha. Her power signature was immense, a pressure against his senses that rivaled his own. The woman smiled, and it was the smile of a predator who just cornered her prey. Alpha Roland Blackwater, she called across the water. Her voice carried easily, rich and commanding. I've been waiting for you. Roland shifted back to human form, unconcerned with his nudity. Modesty was a human concept. Wolves discarded it, along with their fur. Who are you? My name is Rachel Nightshade, she said, and the surname made Roland's blood run cold. Nightshade, the royal bloodline, the first wolves, the ones whose power made regular alphas look like pups. And I have information about your mate. Every muscle in Roland's body locked. What do you know about Pania? Rachel tilted her head, studying him with those eerie glowing eyes. I know that you've been searching for her. I know that you can still feel your bond, which confuses and terrifies you because it means she's alive. I know that your pack thinks you're losing your mind, spiraling into grief-induced delusion. She paused. And I know exactly where Pania Ashford is. Roland's heart hammered against his ribs. Where? She's with me, Rachel said simply. Has been for 3 months. Healing, training, becoming what she was always meant to be. Bring her back. The command came out as a snarl, his wolf rising to the surface. Now. I can't do that. Rachel's expression didn't change. Still calm, still slightly amused. Because Pania doesn't want to come back. Not yet. Not until she's ready. You're lying. But even as he said it, Roland felt the truth of her words like a blade between his ribs. The bond pulsed not with distress, but with determination. Purpose. Am I? Rachel raised an eyebrow. Reach through your bond right now, Alpha. Really reach. Tell me what you feel. Roland closed his eyes, something he'd been too afraid to do for months. He'd been treating the bond like an open wound, avoiding it because touching it hurt too much. Now he pressed against it, pushed through the distance and the muffling, and reached. And Pania answered. Not with words, with a feeling. A crystal clear sensation that hit him like a freight train. Not yet. Soon. Trust me. Roland's eyes snapped open. What did you do to her? I saved her life, Rachel said, and for the first time, something hard entered her voice. She came to me broken, suppressed, barely alive. Did you know your mate was being poisoned, Alpha? For years. Wolfsbane in small doses, mixed with other compounds designed to suppress her wolf, keep her weak, keep her controllable. The world tilted. That's impossible. Our healers would have detected. Your healers were the ones administering it, Rachel interrupted. On someone's orders. Tell me, Alpha, did anyone in your pack ever really accept your bond with Pania? Did they celebrate when you claimed her? Or did they whisper that you could do better? That she was weak, broken, unworthy of an alpha? Roland's mind reeled, memories flooding back with new, sinister context. Sonia's vitamin supplements that she'd insisted Pania take daily. The pack elder's constant suggestions that perhaps the bond was a mistake, that the moon goddess must have made an error. Rachel's barely concealed hostility. Her pointed comments about proper Luna bloodlines. If what you're saying is true, Roland forced the words past his constricting throat. If someone in my pack tried to kill my mate, then you have a traitor problem, Rachel finished, and Pania knew. She figured it out about a month before she disappeared. She came to me asking for help, for sanctuary, for a chance to become strong enough to face her enemies. She should have come to me, Roland said, but even as the words left his mouth, he understood why she hadn't. If the poisoning had been happening for years, if multiple pack members were involved, how could she know who to trust? Even him? Especially him, because he hadn't noticed. Her mate, the one person who should have sensed her suffering through their bond, and he'd been blind. When can I see her? The question came out broken, desperate. Rachel's expression softened fractionally. When she's ready, when she's strong enough to come home and burn everything that hurt her to the ground. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, an alpha? I'd be very careful at that reception you're missing. Your enemies think Pania is dead. They think you're weakened by grief. They're going to make their move soon. Perhaps. Tonight. Then she was gone, moving with supernatural speed that left only swirling leaves in her wake. Roland stood frozen on the riverbank as darkness fell completely, his mind racing. Everything he thought he knew had just been shattered and reassembled into a horrifying new picture. Someone in his pack, someone he trusted, someone he'd grown up with, someone he'd sworn to protect, had tried to murder his mate, and they thought they'd succeeded. His phone buzzed. A text from Marshall. Where are you? Rachel is making a toast. You need to be here. Roland looked down at the phone, then at the river, then at the darkening sky. His wolf growled, a long, low sound of pure rage. If they wanted to make their move tonight, let them. Because Roland Blackwater was done being blind, done being weak, done being the grief-stricken alpha everyone expected him to be. He shifted and ran, but not toward the pack house and its poisoned sympathies. He ran toward the truth. And whoever was responsible for taking Pania from him was going to learn a very painful lesson. You don't steal from an alpha. You don't hurt his mate. And you definitely don't make the mistake of letting him figure out what you've done. The funeral was over. The pretense was over. The hunt had begun. The wolfsbane burned like acid in her veins. But Pania had learned not to show it. She'd learned a lot of things over the past 7 years. How to smile when your bones felt like they were dissolving. How to nod politely when the pack healer told you the vitamin supplements were for your own good. How to pretend you didn't notice the pitying looks, the whispered conversations that died when you entered a room, the way even your mate sometimes looked at you like a puzzle he couldn't solve. How to be invisible while standing in plain sight. She sat in the passenger seat of the pack's SUV, watching the Eastern Territories roll past through the window. Trees, mountains, endless wilderness broken only occasionally by small pack settlements. Beside her, driving, was Sonia Clearwater, head healer, trusted pack member, and the woman who'd been slowly poisoning Pania for the better part of a decade. Pania knew because she'd finally figured out how to test her own blood. Modern medicine met ancient wolf healing. She'd pricked her finger and let a single drop fall onto a piece of silver. The reaction had been immediate and damning. Silver should have burned her. Yes, all wolves were vulnerable to silver, but it shouldn't have turned her blood black. It shouldn't have released a smell like burning hair and rotten eggs. Wolfsbane, mixed with something else, something that suppressed the wolf spirit itself. "You're quiet today," Sonia observed, her voice friendly, concerned. She was good at this, the caring healer act. She probably believed it herself. Nervous about the meeting? The meeting, right. That was the excuse for this little trip. A diplomatic mission to meet with the Eastern Pact's Alpha about trade agreements. Boring, routine, the kind of thing Luna in training Pania was expected to attend to learn the ropes of pack politics. Except there was no meeting. Pania had called the Eastern Pact's Alpha herself 2 weeks ago, carefully, secretly. There was no trade negotiation scheduled. No one from Lunarcrest had reached out. This wasn't a diplomatic mission. This was an execution. "Just thinking," Pania said softly, playing the role she'd perfected over years. The meek mate, the weak wolf, the girl who'd never quite measured up but was trying so hard. Sonia smiled warmly. "Well, try to relax. It's a beautiful drive. And Alpha Roland wanted me to make sure you're well taken care of." She reached over to pat Pania's hand, the gesture almost motherly. Pania's wolf snarled inside her mind, a sound of pure hatred. The wolf had been quiet for so long, suppressed by the poison, that Pania had almost forgotten what rage felt like. But lately, as she'd secretly stopped taking the supplements, her wolf had begun to wake up, and her wolf was furious. They drove for another hour, leaving Lunarcrest territory completely, heading into the unclaimed wilderness between packs. Dangerous territory. Neutral ground where pack laws didn't apply and rogues roamed freely. The perfect place for an accident. Sonia pulled off the main road onto a barely visible dirt track. "I need to make a quick stop," she explained, her voice still pleasant. "There's a herb that grows near here that I need for the clinic. Won't take more than a few minutes." Pania nodded, playing along. Her heart hammered against her ribs, adrenaline sharpening her senses despite the wolfsbane still working its way through her system. They parked in a small clearing. Sonia got out, and after a moment's hesitation, Pania followed. The forest here was old growth, massive trees that blocked out most of the sunlight, creating an atmosphere of perpetual twilight. It was beautiful and deeply unsettling. "It's just through here," Sonia said, heading into the trees. But she wasn't looking for herbs. Her hand had dipped into her pocket, emerging with a syringe filled with clear liquid. She thought Pania hadn't noticed. But Pania noticed everything now. When you realized someone was trying to kill you, you noticed everything. Pania followed Sonia deeper into the forest, her mind racing. She could run, should run, but Wolfsbane made her slow, weak. She wouldn't get far, and even if she did, where would she go? Back to the pack that wanted her dead? To Roland, who either didn't know about the poisoning or, terrifyingly, might be part of it? No. She couldn't risk trusting anyone from Lunarcrest. Not until she knew who was involved and how deep the corruption went. That's when she felt it. A pulse of power so immense it made the air vibrate. Pania's wolf perked up, suddenly alert, suddenly hopeful. Alpha. Not just any alpha. Royal bloodline. Sonia felt it too. She froze mid-step, the syringe falling from her suddenly nerveless fingers. What? A woman emerged from between the trees ahead of them as if she'd materialized from shadow itself. She was tall, powerfully built, dressed in black leather that made her look like violence personified. Her hair was midnight black, her eyes that eerie amber gold that marked ancient bloodlines. The power radiating from her was suffocating. "Sonia Clearwater," the woman said, her voice cold enough to freeze blood. "Head healer of Lunarcrest Pack. Current standing. Traitor, conspirator, and surprisingly incompetent assassin." Her gaze shifted to Pania. "And you must be the mate they're trying to kill, Pania Ashford. I've been looking for you." Sonia had gone pale, her hand fumbling for the knife at her belt. "Who are you? This is none of your business. This is pack business." "Wrong on both counts," the woman said. "I'm Rachel Nightshade, and when someone tries to murder a potential asset on neutral ground, it becomes my business." She took a step forward, and the sheer predatory grace of the movement made both Sonia and Panya step back instinctively. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to answer my questions truthfully, and then I'm going to decide whether you die quickly or slowly. You can't. Sonia's protest cut off with a strangled sound as Rachel moved faster than Panya's eyes could track. One moment she was 10 feet away. The next, she had Sonia by the throat, lifted off the ground, the older woman's feet kicking uselessly. I really can, Rachel said pleasantly. Now, who ordered you to kill Panya? And don't lie. I'll know. Sonia's face was turning purple. When Rachel loosened her grip slightly, letting her gasp for air, words tumbled out. I don't. It wasn't supposed to be. Names, Rachel commanded, and the word resonated with alpha authority that compelled obedience. The council, Sonia choked out. They said she was dangerous, said her bloodline couldn't be trusted, said she'd destroy the pack from within. They told me to keep her weak, keep her suppressed, until they could find a way to remove her permanently without angering Alpha Roland. Pania's world spun. The council. Not just one traitor, but multiple. The very people who advised Roland, who guided pack decisions, who were supposed to protect pack members. And the Eastern meeting? Rachel pressed. A lie. I was supposed to stage an accident, rogue attack, make it look like she'd been killed defending herself. Sonia was crying now, mascara running down her face. Please. I was just following orders. I was trying to protect the pack. From what? Panya's voice surprised her. It came out stronger than she'd spoken in years. From me? I never did anything to threaten the pack. I just existed. I just loved Roland. Pania should have felt horror, should have felt something. Instead, she felt nothing. Sonia had been trying to kill her for a decade. This was justice. Maybe not legal justice, but justice nonetheless. The SUV, Pania said, her voice steady. If I disappear, but the vehicle is found intact. Already thought of that, Rachel assured her. We'll stage it. Rogue attack, like she planned. Blood, torn clothes, signs of struggle. They'll search, find nothing, assume you were dragged off and eaten. Very tragic. She pulled out a knife. I'll need some of your blood. And we'll have to rough you up a bit to make it convincing. The injuries will heal. Pania nodded and extended her arm. Rachel made a deep cut across her forearm, letting the blood flow freely into a container. Then she took the knife and made strategic tears in Pania's clothing. This will hurt, she warned before gripping Pania's shoulder and dislocating it with a sharp yank. Pania screamed, the pain white-hot and all-consuming. Rachel immediately popped it back into place, but the damage was done. Blood, torn fabric, injury consistent with a violent attack. Good enough, Rachel decided. She worked quickly, splashing Pania's blood around the clearing, on trees, on the ground. She clawed deep gouges into the bark claw marks from a large wolf. She took Sonia's body and savaged it, making it look like rogues had attacked them both. When she was done, the scene was convincing, brutal, horrifying. They'll find this tomorrow when you don't report in, Rachel explained, helping Pania deeper into the forest, away from the staged attack site. They'll search for weeks. Eventually, they'll give up, hold a funeral, move on. How long have you been watching me? Pania asked as they walked, her shoulder throbbing, her head spinning. 6 months, Rachel admitted. I tracked potential Nightshade descendants. Your family covered their tracks well, but DNA doesn't lie. I was trying to decide whether to approach you when I felt the Wolfsbane signature. That's when I realized you were in danger. She glanced at Pania. I'm sorry I didn't intervene sooner. I wanted to understand the full scope of the conspiracy first. And now I know your entire pack council is compromised. 3 of the 7 members, at minimum, possibly more. They've been planning this for years, since the moment Roland bonded with you. Rachel's expression darkened. They would have killed him too, eventually. A tragic accident after years of watching his mate fade away. Then they'd install someone more manageable. Fury burned through Pania's exhaustion. Who? That you'll discover when you're ready, Rachel said. For now, focus on surviving, on healing, on learning to access the power your bloodline gave you. They walked through the night, Pania stumbling with exhaustion and pain, Rachel supporting her with surprising gentleness. As dawn broke, they reached a massive black SUV hidden deep in the forest. "Welcome to the first day of your new life," Rachel said, helping Panya into the passenger seat. "It's going to hurt. You're going to want to quit. You're going to hate me some days. But I promise you this, when I'm done with you, Panya Ashford Nightshade, you're going to be the most dangerous thing in any room you enter." She started the engine. "And then we're going to go home and make everyone who hurt you very, very sorry they were born." As they drove away, Panya closed her eyes and reached through the mate bond, sending one last message to Roland before she closed herself off completely, before she let him think she was dead. "I'm sorry. I love you. Trust no one." Then she slammed the door shut on the bond, muffling it, hiding it, protecting him from the truth that might get him killed. Behind them, in the clearing, Sonia's body grew cold. The blood dried, and a tragedy was born. Sonia's eyes met hers, and in them, Panya saw genuine belief, twisted and fanatical. "Your bloodline," Sonia whispered. "The Ashfords. You're not what you seem." The council did a deep dive into your history after Roland bonded with you, your family. They were Nightshades once, centuries ago, before they fled the royal territories and changed their name. Panya felt like she'd been struck by lightning. "What?" But Rachel was laughing a rich, genuinely amused sound. "Oh, that's brilliant. They tried to kill you because they figured out you have royal blood? The very thing that should have made you the most valuable asset in the pack?" She shook her head, still smiling. Humans fear what they don't understand. Wolves aren't much better, apparently. She turned to Panya, still holding Sonia aloft with one hand. "Here's your choice, little Ashford Nightshade. I can kill this woman right now, and you can go back to your pack. Tell your mate what's been done to you. Watch him tear apart his own pack trying to root out the traitors. Fracture everything he's built. Start a civil war that will weaken Lunar Crest enough that neighboring packs will attack." They walked through the night, Panya stumbling with exhaustion and pain, Rachel supporting her with surprising gentleness. As dawn broke, they reached a massive black SUV hidden deep in the forest. "Welcome to the first day of your new life," Rachel said, helping Panya into the passenger seat. "It's going to hurt. You're going to want to quit. You're going to hate me some days. But I promise you this, when I'm done with you, Panya Ashford Nightshade, you're going to be the most dangerous thing in any room you enter." She started the engine. "And then we're going to go home and make everyone who hurt you very, very sorry they were born." As they drove away, Panya closed her eyes and reached through the mate bond, sending one last message to Roland before she closed herself off completely, before she let him think she was dead. "I'm sorry. I love you. Trust no one." Then she slammed the door shut on the bond, muffling it, hiding it, protecting him from the truth that might get him killed. Behind them, in the clearing, Sonia's body grew cold. The blood dried, and a tragedy was born. Sonia's eyes met hers, and in them, Panya saw genuine belief, twisted and fanatical. "Your bloodline," Sonia whispered. "The Ashfords. You're not what you seem." The council did a deep dive into your history after Roland bonded with you, your family. They were Nightshades once, centuries ago, before they fled the royal territories and changed their name. Panya felt like she'd been struck by lightning. "What?" But Rachel was laughing a rich, genuinely amused sound. "Oh, that's brilliant. They tried to kill you because they figured out you have royal blood? The very thing that should have made you the most valuable asset in the pack?" She shook her head, still smiling. Humans fear what they don't understand. Wolves aren't much better, apparently. She turned to Panya, still holding Sonia aloft with one hand. "Here's your choice, little Ashford Nightshade. I can kill this woman right now, and you can go back to your pack. Tell your mate what's been done to you. Watch him tear apart his own pack trying to root out the traitors. Fracture everything he's built. Start a civil war that will weaken Lunar Crest enough that neighboring packs will attack." The pack house was filled with people pretending to care that his mate was dead. Roland could smell the lies like rot in the air. Perfume and cologne couldn't mask the underlying sense, anticipation, satisfaction, barely concealed excitement. They were happy Panya was gone. The realization made his wolf snarl, pacing beneath his skin, demanding he shift and rip out throats until the truth bled out. But Rachel's warning echoed in his mind. They're going to make their move soon, perhaps tonight. So Roland played his part. He stood in the center of the reception hall, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his third, though he'd only taken small sips from each. He needed the appearance of grief drinking without the impairment of actual intoxication. People approached with condolences. He nodded, murmured thanks, kept his face carefully blank. Alpha, Roland. Rachel appeared at his elbow, her hand sliding up his arm with presumptuous familiarity. She'd changed from the funeral dress into something lower cut, more revealing. Red, he noted, not black. Interesting choice for a wake. Rachel, he acknowledged. Not pulling away yet. Let her think she had an opening. I know this must be incredibly difficult, she purred, pressing closer. Losing your mate so suddenly, so tragically. But life goes on, Roland. The pack needs stability. Needs a Luna who can actually fulfill the duties of the position. There it was. Less than 4 hours after burying his mate, and Rachel was already positioning herself as the replacement. Too soon, he said flatly, finally stepping away. Rachel's perfectly made-up face tightened. I'm just saying that when you're ready, when the mourning period has passed, you should consider what's best for Lunar Crest. The pack deserves a Luna with proper bloodlines. Someone strong. Pania was strong, Roland said quietly, dangerously. Pania was weak, Rachel corrected, her voice sharp. Everyone knows it. She couldn't even shift properly. Whatever happened out there in the wilderness, she probably couldn't defend herself. A proper Luna would have. Careful, Marshall appeared, his hand landing heavy on Rachel's shoulder. You're talking about our Alpha's dead mate. Show some respect. Rachel's eyes flashed, but she stepped back, smoothing her dress. Of course. My apologies, Alpha. The grief must be making me speak out of turn. She drifted away, but not before throwing one more calculated look over her shoulder. Roland watched her go, his mind cataloging every detail. Rachel's father was on the pack council. Rachel herself had medical training, worked closely with Sonia in the clinic. Rachel had always been vocal about Pania being unsuitable. She's involved, Roland said quietly. Marshall's expression was grim. Probably. Along with half the room, he handed Roland a fresh drink. What are you going to do? Watch, Roland said. Wait, make them comfortable. And then, Roland's smile was all teeth. Then I'm going to tear them apart. The reception continued. Roland moved to the crowd, accepting condolences, his mind detached, observing. Councilman Thornwood, Rachel's father, kept glancing at the door as if expecting someone. Councilwoman Vex, a severe woman in her 60s, couldn't quite hide her satisfied smile. Even some of the younger pack members, people Roland had trained with, seemed relieved more than sad. How many? How deep did this conspiracy go? Around midnight, as the reception was winding down, Roland's mother approached. Elena Blackwater was elegant even in grief, her silver hair pulled back, her black dress impeccable. She took Roland's hand, squeezed gently. Come with me, darling, she murmured. There's something you need to know. She led him away from the crowd, into his father's old study. The former Alpha had died 5 years ago, leaving Roland to take control of Lunar Crest at 22. The study still smelled like his father, leather and tobacco and old paper. Elena closed the door behind them, locked it. When she turned back to Roland, her carefully maintained composure cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Mom, I'm so sorry, she whispered. Roland, I'm so sorry. I should have told you years ago. I should have warned her. But I was afraid. And I was a coward. And now she's dead. Because I did nothing. Roland's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Elena sank into a chair, her hands trembling. The council, the elders, some of them, at least. They've been planning this since before you bonded with Pania. They knew what she was, what her bloodline meant, and they were terrified. Roland pulled up a chair, sitting across from his mother. Tell me everything. Elena took a shuddering breath. When Pania first came to our pack, she was 16, remember? Her entire pack had been slaughtered by rogues, or so we were told. She met Roland's eyes. That was a lie. Her pack wasn't killed by rogues. They were executed by a coalition of alphas who discovered what the Ashfords really were. Nightshades, Roland said, the pieces clicking together. His mother's eyes widened. You know? I just found out tonight. Keep talking. The Ashford line descends from the Nightshade royal family. Centuries ago, there was a split in the royal bloodline, a civil war. One faction won, and the other fled, changed their names, scattered across territories, trying to hide what they were. Elena's voice dropped. Pania's pack was discovered. The Alphas feared what would happen if a royal bloodline regained power, so they eliminated the threat. Killed everyone, burned the territory. Except Pania, Roland said, his jaw tight. Except Pania. She was away at a leadership camp for young wolves. By the time she got back, her family was dead, her land was ash, and she had nowhere to go. Elena wiped her eyes. Your father took her in. He was a good man, Roland. He didn't care about bloodlines or politics. He just saw a traumatized child who needed help. But the council cared. Councilman Thornwood recognized her immediately. He'd been part of the coalition that ordered the execution. When Pania showed up here, he wanted to kill her too, but your father refused. So they compromised Pania could stay, but she had to be monitored, controlled, kept weak enough that she'd never be a threat. Roland's hands clenched into fists. The wolfsbane. Elena nodded miserably. Sonia started dosing her almost immediately. Small amounts, mixed with actual vitamins and supplements, enough to suppress her wolf without killing her outright. They told themselves it was for the pack's safety, that they were preventing another royal uprising. And then I bonded with her, Roland said, understanding flooding through him. And then you bonded with her, Elena confirmed, which changed everything. If Pania became Luna, if she had children with you, heirs with both alpha and royal blood, the power dynamic would shift dramatically. Lunar Crest would become a threat to every other pack. They couldn't allow it. So they decided to kill her. Roland's voice was ice. Who? Give me names. Thornwood, definitely. Councilwoman Vex, Councilman Drake. Elena hesitated, and I think Marshall might know more than he's saying. Roland's world tilted. Marshall? I don't know for certain, Elena said quickly, but he's been acting strange, secretive, and he was the one who volunteered to handle the search efforts when Pania disappeared. He's the one who convinced you to give up, to hold the funeral. Roland stood, pacing, his mind racing. Marshall, his best friend since childhood, his beta, his brother, in all but blood. It couldn't be. But then again, he hadn't thought his pack would systematically poison his mate either. Why didn't you tell me? Roland demanded, rounding on his mother. Why didn't you warn Pania? Warn me? Because I was afraid. Elena's composure shattered completely. Thornwood threatened me, said if I spoke up, he'd make sure you had an accident too, that he'd install his daughter as alpha, with Rachel's mate as the new pack leader. I chose your life over hers, Roland, and I've hated myself every day since. Roland wanted to rage at her, to scream, to break something. But he understood. She'd been backed into a corner, forced to choose between two impossible options, and she'd chosen to keep him alive. She's not dead, Roland said quietly. Elena looked up, hope and disbelief warring on her face. What? Pania's alive. I can still feel the bond. And tonight, I met someone who confirmed it. Rachel Nightshade. She has Pania. She's been training her, helping her access her real power. Roland's expression hardened. And when Pania comes back, everyone who tried to kill her is going to pay. Roland, if you move against the council without proof, I'll get proof, Roland interrupted. Tonight, because Rachel was right, they think they've won. They think I'm weakened by grief. They're going to make mistakes. As if summoned by his words, a commotion erupted outside the study. Shouting, running footsteps. Marshall's voice raised in alarm. Alpha, we're under attack. Roland threw open the door and sprinted toward the main hall. The reception had turned into chaos. Windows were shattered. Pack members were shifting, snarling, forming defensive positions. And through the broken windows, Roland could see them rogues. At least 20, moving with coordinated precision that rogues shouldn't possess. This wasn't a random attack. This was planned. Marshall ran up, already half-shifted, his eyes glowing yellow. They came out of nowhere. Someone must have breached our border patrols. Or someone disabled them, Roland said, watching the attack pattern. The rogues were targeting specific pack members, the ones loyal to Roland, he realized. The ones who genuinely mourned Pania. This is a coup. Marshal's expression flickered guilt, confirmation, something. Roland. A rogue crashed through the window behind them. Roland shifted instantly, his alpha wolf emerging in an explosion of power. He was massive, easily twice the size of a normal wolf. His fur so dark it seemed to absorb light. His eyes glowed crimson. The rogue hesitated, recognition and fear crossing his features. Then Roland was on it, jaws closing around his throat, ending it quickly. More rogues poured in. The pack fought back, but Roland could see the pattern now. Certain pack members were fighting, while others were hanging back, letting the rogues through, targeting specific wolves. Rachel stood near the entrance, her phone in her hand, texting someone. She looked up, saw Roland watching her, and smiled. That's when the main door burst open and Councilman Thornwood strode in, flanked by 6 massive wolves. Not rogues, these were trained fighters, probably mercenaries hired from outside packs. "I'm sorry it came to this, Roland," Thornwood said, his voice carrying across the chaos, "but you've become a liability. The pack needs strong leadership, not an alpha weakened by grief and poor mate choices." "This is treason," Roland snarled, his wolf's voice resonating in the words. "This is evolution," Thornwood corrected. "Lunar Crest will be stronger under new leadership. Rachel will make an excellent alpha, with proper guidance from the council." He gestured, and the mercenary wolves advanced. "You can step down peacefully and accept exile, or you can die fighting. Your choice." Roland's laugh was dark, dangerous. "You think 6 wolves can take me?" "Not 6. Marshall's voice came from behind him. 7. Roland turned slowly. Marshall stood there, fully shifted now. His beta wolf large, powerful, gray as storm clouds. And his eyes held regret, but also resolve. "I'm sorry, brother," Marshall said. But Pania was dangerous. Her bloodline was dangerous. You wouldn't see reason, wouldn't accept that some sacrifices are necessary for the greater good. The betrayal hit harder than any physical blow. Roland had suspected, but hoping he was wrong and having it confirmed were 2 different things. "You helped them kill her," Roland said flatly. "I helped them save the pack," Marshall corrected, "and now I'm going to help them save it from you." The mercenary wolves attacked as one. Roland met them head on, his alpha rage giving him strength beyond normal limits. He moved like lightning, jaws and claws tearing through flesh, blood spraying across the expensive carpet. He killed the first mercenary in seconds, ripping out his throat. The second, he disemboweled with a slash of his claws. The third managed to get its jaws around his leg, and Roland felt bone crack, but he twisted, bringing his full weight down on the wolf's spine, snapping it. 3 down, 4 to go, plus Marshall. The remaining mercenaries had learned caution. They circled, looking for openings, coordinating their strikes. Marshall hung back, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That's when the windows exploded inward in a shower of glass and wood. Wolves poured through, massive, powerful, their eyes glowing, that distinctive amber gold of royal bloodlines. And leading them was Rachel Nightshade in her wolf form. She was breathtaking and terrifying, pure black, easily as large as Roland, moving with lethal grace. Behind her came another wolf, smaller, leaner, with silver blonde fur that seemed to shimmer in the light, eyes that glowed not yellow or red or amber, but brilliant, electric blue. Roland's heart stopped. He knew that scent, knew it bone deep, soul deep, despite the months apart, despite the changes. Pania. She'd come home. 3 months ago, Pania couldn't shift. Now, in her wolf form, she felt invincible. The transformation had been agonizing. Rachel hadn't lied about that. Burning the wolfsbane out of her system had taken weeks of suffering, fever, hallucinations, her body rejecting years of accumulated poison. She'd screamed until her voice gave out, thrashed until Rachel had to physically restrain her, wished for death 100 times, but she'd survived. And when the poison was finally gone, when her wolf could finally emerge after being suppressed for her entire conscious life, the power that flooded through her had been worth every second of pain. She wasn't just strong, she was royal. Ancient bloodline, ancient power, ancient rage. Rachel had taught her to fight, really fight, not the performative training Lunarcrest had given her. She'd learned to kill efficiently, brutally, without hesitation or mercy. She learned to use her size. She was smaller than most wolves, but faster, more agile, able to slip under defenses and strike at vital points. She'd learned to be a weapon. And now, crashing through the windows of her former pack house, seeing Roland surrounded by traitors, seeing Marshall sweet, loyal Marshall who'd played board games with her on quiet evenings preparing to kill her mate, Pania's wolf finally had targets for all that rage. She hit the nearest mercenary wolf like a missile, jaws closing around its neck, shaking violently until she felt the vertebrae separate. The wolf went limp. She dropped it and moved to the next one. Rachel was a blur of black fur and fury, tearing through Thornwood's hired killers with surgical precision. The other Nightshade wolves Rachel had brought 5 of her own pack members formed a protective circle around Roland, giving him time to recover from his injuries. Pania's eyes locked on Marshall. He'd frozen, staring at her with his mouth open, his wolf form radiating shock and disbelief. Pania, the name came out mangled through his wolf's vocal cords. But you're dead. We buried you. Pania shifted back to human form, standing naked and unashamed in the ruins of the reception hall. Blood not hers dripped from her hands. Her eyes glowed brilliant blue, brighter than they'd ever been when she was suppressed. You buried an empty casket, she said, her voice cold. Surprise, Marshall shifted back too, and the look on his face was complicated. Relief, guilt, fear, calculation. You don't understand. What we did, it was for the pack. Your bloodline is royal, Pani interrupted. I know everything, Marshall. I know you helped Sonia plan my murder. I know you disabled the border patrols tonight to let the rogues through. I know you've been feeding information to Thornwood for months, helping him consolidate power. I was protecting Lunar Crest, Marshall insisted, but his voice wavered. If you'd remained Luna, if you'd had children with Roland, it would have painted a target on our entire pack. The other alphas would have united against us. We would have been destroyed. So instead, you decided to destroy me, Pania said softly. You're Luna, your alpha's mate, me. Roland had shifted back too, limping on his injured leg but very much alive. He moved to stand beside Pania, and the moment their skin touched, the mate bond exploded back to full strength. Roland gasped, the sensation overwhelming after months of muted connection. Pania, he breathed, his hand coming up to cup her face as if he couldn't believe she was real. You're alive. You're really alive. I'm alive, she confirmed, leaning into his touch for just a moment. And I'm so sorry I let you think otherwise, but I had to. I had to become strong enough to face them. You have nothing to apologize for, Roland said fiercely. Nothing. This is on them. All of them. He turned to face the pack, members gathered in the hall, some fighting, some cowering, some clearly complicit in the coup attempt. His voice, when he spoke, resonated with Alpha Command. Marshall Crescent for conspiracy, treason, and attempted murder of your Luna, I challenge you to combat. The loser forfeits their life. Marshall's face went pale. An Alpha challenge was sacred, unbreakable. He could accept and fight, or he could submit and accept immediate execution. There was no third option. Roland, please. Marshall's voice cracked. We've been friends since we were children. Brothers. You can't. You stopped being my brother the moment you helped them poison my mate, Roland said, his tone absolute. Shift, fight, or die as a coward. Marshall looked around desperately, seeking support, escape, anything. But the mercenary wolves were dead or dying. Thornwood had fled during the chaos. Rachel was nowhere to be seen. He was alone. I accept, Marshall whispered finally. Both men shifted. The pack formed a circle, ancient tradition taking over even in the midst of chaos and betrayal. Rachel and her wolves hung back, observers but ready to intervene if anyone tried to interfere. Pania wanted to stop this. Despite everything, despite the betrayal, Marshall had been her friend too. But she also understood that some things were necessary. The pack needed to see justice done, needed to see their alpha strong, unforgiving, willing to do what was required. The fight was brutal and short. Marshall was a strong beta, but Roland was an alpha in his prime, fighting for his mate, powered by righteous fury. It took less than 2 minutes for Roland to have Marshall pinned, jaws around his throat, one bite away from ending it. Marshall went still, submitting, waiting for death. But Roland didn't bite down. Instead, he spoke, his wolf's voice carrying to every corner of the room. "I should kill you. You deserve death. But Pania is merciful, even when she shouldn't be, and she once called you friend." He released Marshall's throat, stepped back. "You're exiled. You have until sunrise to get off my territory. If you ever return, if I ever catch your scent within 100 miles of Lunacrest lands, I'll finish this. No challenges, no mercy. Just death." Marshall scrambled to his feet, his wolf form bleeding from multiple wounds. He looked at Pania one last time, and she saw tears in his animal eyes. "I thought I was saving us," he said, the words barely understandable through his wolf's mouth. "I'm sorry." Then he ran, bursting through the broken windows, disappearing into the night. Roland shifted back, swaying with exhaustion and blood loss. Pania was at his side immediately, supporting him. "We need to get you to a healer," she said. "Your leg?" "Sonia's dead," Roland said. "You'll have to tell me that story. And I don't trust anyone else in the clinic right now." "I can help with that," Rachel interjected, shifting back to human form. She'd taken down 3 more pack members during the fight, ones who'd tried to escape, who'd been identified as co-conspirators. "I brought a healer with me. She's outside with the vehicles." She surveyed the ruined reception hall, the bodies, the blood, the shocked pack members. "You're going to need to address your pack, Alpha. They need to know what happened here, what was done in their name, and they need to decide whether they still want you leading them." Roland nodded grimly. He pulled on a pair of pants someone handed him, then stepped into the center of the hall, commanding attention without saying a word. "Members of Lunar Crest," he began, his voice carrying. "Tonight you witnessed treason. Members of your council, wolves you trusted, attempted to murder me and stage a coup. They did this because 3 months ago, they successfully murdered your Luna." Gasps, denials, confusion rippling through the crowd. "Pania Ashford wasn't killed by rogues," Roland continued. "She was assassinated by Sonia Clearwater on orders from Councilman Thornwood, Councilwoman Vex, and Councilman Drake. They staged her death because she carries royal Nightshade bloodline, and they feared what that would mean for our pack." Pania stepped forward, letting them see her, letting them see that she was real and alive and powerful. Several pack members dropped to their knees instinctively, responding to the royal bloodline they could now sense. "My name is Pania Ashford Nightshade," she said, her voice steady. "I am a descendant of the royal line. I am also your Luna, bonded to your Alpha, and sworn to protect this pack with my life. I was poisoned for a decade to keep me weak. I was murdered to keep me silent. I survived to give you all a choice." She paused, meeting eyes around the room. "You can reject me, reject my bloodline, reject the danger it might bring, reject the changes that will come. If you do, I'll leave peacefully. Roland and I will start our own pack elsewhere. Or you can accept me, accept that Lunar Crest is about to become something more powerful, more dangerous, and more important than it's ever been." Silence stretched. Then one wolf, a young male named Kieran, who'd always been kind to Pania, stepped forward and knelt. "I accept you, Luna," he said clearly, "and I'll follow you both wherever you lead." Another wolf joined him, then another. Within minutes, 2/3 of the pack had knelt, pledging loyalty. The remaining third, mostly older wolves, ones tied to the old council, stood uncertain, afraid. "Those who don't wish to stay may leave," Roland said. "No judgment, no retaliation. You have 1 week to relocate. After that, anyone remaining on Lunar Crest territory who hasn't pledged loyalty will be considered hostile." It was more generous than they deserved, but it was also strategic. Better to let dissent leave peacefully than fight a civil war. As for the conspirators, Roland's voice turned cold. Thornwood, Vex, and Drake are declared enemies of the pack. Anyone who shelters them, aids them, or communicates with them will be considered complicit in their treason. There's a blood bounty on each of their heads. Anyone who brings them to me dead or alive will be rewarded. Rachel smiled approvingly. Spoken like a true leader. The crowd began to disperse, wolves heading to their homes or the pack medical center, processing the night's revelations. Roland sagged against Pania, his adrenaline finally crashing. I need to sit down, he admitted, before I fall down. Pania helped him to a chair, her hands gentle despite her newfound strength. Rachel's healer, a capable woman named Iris, immediately began working on his leg, setting the break using a combination of modern medicine and wolf healing to speed recovery. You're going to need to rest for at least 3 days, Iris said firmly. Broken bones drain a lot of energy to heal, even for an alpha. 3 days, Roland repeated, looking at Pania. We have 3 days before the other packs hear what happened here, before they start circling, deciding whether to support us or attack us. Then we use those 3 days well, Rachel said. She'd pulled on clothes and was examining the bodies of the mercenaries. These are from the Crimson Ridge pack, which means Alpha Vance provided them. He's allied with Thornwood. How many other alphas are involved? Pania asked. Unknown, but if I had to guess, most of them. The coalition that destroyed your original pack was large over a dozen territories. They'll be very unhappy to learn a royal bloodline has not only survived, but bonded with a major pack alpha. Rachel's expression was serious. You're about to become the most targeted wolves in North America. Good, Pania said, surprising everyone, including herself. Let them come. Let them try. They took my family, my childhood, my identity. They made me spend years thinking I was broken, worthless, weak, and I'm tired of hiding. Roland took her hand, squeezing gently. We'll face them together. Together? Pania agreed. Rachel nodded slowly. Then you're going to need allies. Powerful ones. The Nightshade clan will stand with you. I'll make it official. But you'll need more. You'll need to reach out to packs that were excluded from the coalition. Ones that resent the current power structure. The southern packs, Roland said thoughtfully, they've always been independent, resistant to the Council of Alphas. If we can convince them that supporting us serves their interest. I'll reach out to my contacts, Rachel offered, but ultimately, they'll want to meet you both. Assess whether you're worth the risk. Then we'll convince them, Pania said, with a confidence that came from surviving the impossible. Because we don't have another choice. Iris finished with Roland's leg, wrapping it securely. Done. Stay off it for 24 hours minimum. After that, light activity only. And both of you need to eat and sleep. You're running on fumes. As if summoned by the mention of food, pack members began arriving with trays, sandwiches, fruit, water, coffee. The beginnings of normalcy after chaos. Pania realized she was starving. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. She grabbed a sandwich and devoured it, then another. Roland watched her with a mixture of love and lingering disbelief. I can't believe you're really here. I was so sure. The bond was so faint. I had to close it off, Pania explained between bites. Rachel taught me how. If Thornwood had suspected I was still alive, they would have used you to lure me out before I was ready. I had to let you think I was dead. I had to let you grieve. It almost killed me, Roland admitted quietly. Every day, wondering if I'd imagined the bond, if I was going insane. Planning this funeral, listening to everyone tell me to move on, to take another mate. Rachel, Pania said, the name tasting bitter. She made her intentions clear? Immediately, Roland confirmed. Less than 4 hours after your funeral. She'll be dealt with. She fled during the attack, Rachel interjected, along with her father. I have wolves tracking them, but they had a head start. We'll find them, Pania said with cold certainty. All of them, and they'll answer for what they did. Elena appeared in the doorway, her face streaked with tears. When she saw Pania, alive and healthy and powerful, she let out a sob and rushed forward, pulling her into a fierce embrace. I'm so sorry, Elena choked out. I should have protected you, should have warned you. I was a coward. You protected Roland, Pania said gently, returning the embrace. You made an impossible choice, and you chose your son. I understand. I forgive you. Elena pulled back, studying Pania's face. You're different. Stronger. The girl who left would never have. The girl who left was poisoned and dying, Pania interrupted. She's gone. I'm what's left. No, Roland said firmly. You're what was always there, underneath. They tried to bury you, suppress you, kill you, but you were always this strong. They just made you forget. Pania met his eyes, saw the absolute faith there, and felt something crack open in her chest. For years, she'd believed what they told her, that she was broken, weak, a burden. Even during training with Rachel, part of her had wondered if this new strength was real or just temporary. But Roland saw her, really saw her, saw past the suppression and the trauma to the person she'd always been meant to be. I love you, she said, the words feeling inadequate but necessary. I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I made you suffer. But I love you. I love you too, Roland replied, pulling her close despite his injuries. And I'm sorry I didn't notice. Didn't see what was being done to you. I failed you as your mate and your alpha. We both get a chance to do better now, Pania said. Clean slate. New beginning. New war, Rachel added pragmatically. Sorry to interrupt the moment, but we need to start planning. The other alphas will move fast once they learn Pania is alive. Roland nodded, his expression hardening. Then we move faster. Everything had gone wrong. Councilman Marcus Thornwood crouched in the ruins of an abandoned hunting cabin 20 miles from Lunar Crest territory, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his phone. Beside him, his daughter Rachel paced frantically, her designer clothes torn and muddy from their flight through the forest. How is she alive? Rachel kept repeating, her voice rising toward hysteria. We saw the blood. Sonia confirmed the kill. How is she alive? Shut up, Thornwood hissed. I'm trying to think. But thinking was difficult when your entire world had collapsed in the space of an hour. The coup had been planned perfectly. The mercenaries hired. The rogues positioned. Marshall was supposed to kill Roland while the pack was distracted, making it look like he died defending them from the attack. Rachel would step forward as the new alpha, with Thornwood and the remaining council members as her advisors. Instead, the Ashford girl, the one they'd killed 3 months ago, had crashed through the windows leading an army of royal bloodline wolves, and everything had turned into a bloodbath. Thornwood's phone buzzed. He answered it immediately. Tell me you have good news. Thornwood? The voice on the other end was cold, furious. Alpha Vance of Crimson Ridge Pack. Want to explain why all 6 of the mercenaries I lent you are dead? There were complications. Complications? Vance's roar made Thornwood wince and pull the phone away from his ear. You told me this was a simple coup. Remove one unstable alpha. Install new leadership, business as usual. You didn't mention the Luna was alive. You didn't mention she was bonded to a goddamn nightshade. We didn't know, Thornwood said desperately. Sonia killed her. We're sure of it. This is some kind of trick. Some kind of... I don't care about your excuses, Vance interrupted. I care that my wolves are dead and my pack is now implicated in treason against an alpha with royal bloodline support. Do you understand what that means? The Nightshade clan hasn't involved itself in regional politics for over a century. If they're backing Blackwater now, it changes everything. We can still fix this, Thornwood insisted. The other alphas in the coalition want nothing to do with you, Vance said flatly. I've already received calls from 3 of them. They're distancing themselves, denying involvement, preparing for the fallout. You're on your own, Thornwood. The line went dead. Thornwood stared at the phone, his mind struggling to process what he'd just heard. The coalition was abandoning him. After everything he'd done, all the planning, the years of careful manipulation, they were just cutting him loose. Dad? Rachel's voice was small, frightened. What did he say? We're alone, Thornwood said numbly. The coalition won't help us. Then we run. Rachel decided, her alpha instincts kicking in despite her fear. We get out of North America entirely. South America, Europe, somewhere the Nightshades don't have influence. There is nowhere the Nightshades don't have influence, a new voice said from the doorway. Both Thornwoods spun. Councilwoman Vex stood there, but she wasn't alone. Behind her were 5 wolves, massive, clearly trained fighters, their eyes glowing that distinctive amber gold. Surprised? Vex asked, but her smile was sharp. Predatory. You shouldn't be, Did you really think I threw in with your pathetic coup attempt out of loyalty? I was covering my real assignment. You're working for them, Thornwood breathed, understanding and horror flooding through him. You're working for the Nightshades. For years, Vex confirmed. We've been tracking Pania since her family was executed, waiting to see where she'd end up, who she'd bond with. When she landed in Lunar Crest, we knew it was only a matter of time before idiots like you revealed yourselves. She walked into the cabin, her wolves fanning out behind her. See, the Nightshade royal line has a long memory. They remember who participated in the purge of the Ashford Pack. They have names, dates, evidence, and they've been waiting for the perfect moment to exact revenge. You're going to kill us, Rachel whispered. Eventually, Vex said pleasantly, but first, you're going to tell me everything. Every alpha in the coalition, every pack that participated, every wolf who knew about the Ashford massacre and said nothing. She pulled out a small recording device. Start talking, and if we refuse? Thornwood tried to summon some defiance. Vex's smile widened. Then my friends here get creative. They're very good at extracting information from uncooperative subjects. Very good. Though I should warn you, their methods leave you wishing for death long before it actually arrives. As if to emphasize the point, one of the wolves shifted partially just enough to show elongating claws, sharpening teeth, the hybrid form that was painful to hold and devastating in combat. Thornwood looked at his daughter, saw the terror in her eyes, and made a decision. He was a survivor, always had been. And if surviving meant betraying the coalition that had already betrayed him, I'll talk, he said, but I want protection, asylum, a new identity somewhere far from here. Vex laughed. You're in no position to negotiate, but I'll tell you what, give me everything, every single detail, and I'll make sure your death is quick, clean, painless. Her expression hardened. Refuse, and I let Pania decide your fate. And trust me, you don't want that. She's had 3 months to imagine what she'll do to the people who tried to kill her. Thornwood swallowed hard. Then he began to talk. 3 days later, Pania. The Southern Alliance meeting was being held in neutral territory, a massive estate in the Smoky Mountains that belonged to no pack, maintained as a meeting ground for inter-pack politics. Pania stood in front of a full-length mirror in the guest suite, adjusting the formal dress she'd chosen for the occasion. It was black, elegant, fitted but not too tight, with long sleeves that covered the scars she'd acquired during training. She looked like a Luna, professional, composed, exactly what these alphas would expect. But her eyes gave her away. That electric blue glow, visible even in human form, now that she'd stopped suppressing her bloodline. Evidence of power that made several of the attending alphas nervous. You look beautiful, Roland said from the doorway. He'd recovered from his injuries. The broken leg healed thanks to accelerated wolf regeneration and Iris's skilled care. He wore a dark suit, every inch the alpha. But when he looked at her, his eyes were soft. I look dangerous, Pania corrected. That's more important than beautiful right now. You can be both, Rachel interjected, joining them. She'd come as their sponsor, the Nightshade representative, lending her support to their cause. Trust me, the alphas downstairs are already intimidated.